Hey friends, welcome back to Fantasy Awash. Today we are going to be recapping Season 2, Episode 5 of The Wheel of Time. Let's jump into the episode. The beginning of our episode opens where we see this Shanshan, and we see that Lady Sarath is now being forced to supplicate to this new guy that we haven't really met yet. And we can see that Ingtar and Loyal have been taken hostage, which we kind of inferred from the last episode, except now they've been given fancy Shanshan garb and we know that it's official. So that's new in this episode, but we kind of get the feeling that things are pretty tense for Lady Sarath because she didn't adhere to the directive that she was given. So that's a Nish and Shanshan culture, and because of this she has to get a really intense manicure and loses her nails. But that is not the only thing that happens in this scene. The big reveal is that we have Ishamael and Padan Fain, and they present this new guy with the Horn of Valir, and he seems to know what the Horn of Valir is without being given any kind of precursor, and understands its importance and realizes that this is going to kind of help them bring them to conquering the whole world, which apparently is the goal of the Shanshan we learned from this guy. Meanwhile, Lanfear, when we left her at the end of our last episode, Moiraine had slit her throat and implied to Rand that that wasn't gonna matter. She's not gonna die. She's gonna recoup pretty quickly, and we can see from this scene that that definitely does happen. There's this weird thing that's going on with her eyes, and it seems to be kind of a healing mechanism that she's using, and then it almost appears as if a dark weave is wrapping itself around her to help her heal herself. So she's definitely good to go, as Moiraine predicted. So they're still very much on the run from Lanfear, because Lanfear is nobody to be messed with in terms of the Forsaken. So Moiraine, Rand, and this now Horsekeeper are on the run from Lanfear, but Lanfear is not that far behind them because she was able to heal herself. So Perrin and Elias part ways pretty early, which is questionable because he still hasn't really learned a whole lot about what it is he can do, who he is, all that kind of stuff, but he wants to go and try to rescue Loyal and Ingtar. Elias is telling him that's not his pack and he doesn't need to worry about them, but they come back to the place where they were attacked, and Perrin isn't super thrilled about this, and he gets a vision that he needs to go to where the wolves are leading him because Uno wasn't buried, and he needs to go honor Uno and bury him. So he decides that he is going to make a pit stop in the town after all. But while he's inside town, he sees that the White Cloak that he thought that Egwene had killed from last season, Valda, is in fact still alive, and he meets a couple of new White Cloaks, and he also sees that there is a live girl in a cage and is an Aiel, but we'll get back to her soon. Lanfear is kind of demonstrating that she's Lanfear and flexing that a little bit. She's cruel. She's known for her cruelty, and she definitely does that with this horse trainer, horsekeeper, whatever you want to call her. And we prove in this episode that Brown Aja, which I am representing in this video because I myself am a Brown Aja, are just like Ravenclaw, which is great because I am also a Ravenclaw, and that's excellent. So we see that with Cho Chang being now Jessica in this show. So that's really exciting because Brown Aja are the best Aja, which we will get into in this episode. But Liandrin is now in the Ways. We saw the Ways last season in episode 7 when Moiraine and Lan take them through the Ways, and they end up, instead of at the Eye of the World, in Shannara, because they were being chased by Trollocs, and then Manchan-Chin, which we still didn't really get too in-depth of an explanation about, but in this scenario, Liandrin has captured Elaine, Egwene, and Nynaeve, brought them into the Ways, and is talking to Nynaeve, basically that every woman has a price and will sell herself for some fee, and in this case, we come to realize that it is her son that has compelled her to do this. But across the vast distance, we are back in Tom and Head or Falm, and we have Ishamael and Lady Sarath, and we see that Lady Sarath is kind of getting snippy with Ishi, but Ishi reminds her that there's a reason that she turned to the dark, and he knows what that is and holds that above her head and dangles that, and she's quick to remember her place and then doesn't say anything too much beyond that. But when we go back to Perrin, we see that Perrin can't just leave the Aiel in the cage. He has to free her, even though he was warned not to. This then results in an escapade, basically, of the White Cloaks fighting against the Aiel, who we now know is Avienda, and she asks Perrin if he wants to dance because that is the lingo of the IU. Back in Kyrene, we have Rand and Moiraine. They have returned. This is where Moiraine's ancestral home is. We know this from the last few episodes. Her sister is there, and they are headed back to her house. When they get there, they see that her nephew has now arrived. He is talking about his upcoming nuptials, which is something that they were talking about in the last episode. So they're definitely riding out that storyline that he is going to get married and that he has resurrected essentially their house because they were becoming destitute, and the sister has done everything she can to arrange this match and is quite happy about it. Back in the White Tower, we have Varen, aka the Brown Aja Supreme, just playing inspector and with everybody, and she starts this with Sheriam. She's trying to figure out where Elaine, Egwene, and Nynaeve are, but more so Nynaeve and Egwene. And then we jump back to, I consider this like Ravenclaw Tower, because we have our two Brown Ajas that are getting really giddy over the fact that there was a discrepancy in script. And these are the types of things that Brown Aja really get excited for. Brown Aja are academics, so that makes sense for their characters. But when Leandrin finally gets out of the ways, we see that she was actually able to transport them on the backs of horses, because I was curious about this earlier in the episode, so I'm happy that they addressed this. And she has words with Lady Sarath. It is clear that the Shan-Chen don't value anyone that can channel, and they look down upon them quite significantly. But Leandrin she's hard-pressed to be doing what she's doing, but she understands that she has to do it if she wants to save her son, because that is the price that she had to pay. But after that scene, it seems that Elaine and Nynaeve are able to escape, and later on they try to break into Falme, I guess. And this seems like a really poor thought out plan, because the fact that they haven't really changed their disguise or their appearance at all, and the people that would have known what they are looking for would very much be able to find them. But they're okay for now, I guess. Back in the White Tower, Leandrin has returned with white asparagus, which is her alibi, but Varen is once again proving that she is Brown Aja Supreme, and that she is interrogating her to see where she is and where the novices and the accepted are. So something that we learn in this episode is that Lanfear, all while being a very cruel and powerful Forsaken, is a master of the dream world. And the dream world, I'm thinking, is something that they're probably going to get into going forward. She is able to communicate with Ishmael in the dream space here, and she implies that she is waiting for Rand to fall asleep so that she can communicate with him. The two of them are talking about Rand and what it's going to be like for him when he realizes that all of his friends have turned to the dark. So I think they think that they will win and be able to convert Rand based on his friends. But back to the Shan-Chen, we see that a Dominan, or Domine, however they want to say it, in this series are being created, and that's with Egwene having the collar put around her neck. She is now being forced into essentially slavery, which is really horrifying and absolutely terrifying. That scene was really intense, so there was that. But at the end of our episode, we see that Rand agrees to go into the dream space because he feels that Lanfear actually isn't that much of a threat to him because of the fact that he's been with her for the last couple of months and she didn't try to harm him in any way, shape, or form. And Moiraine informs him that in all of the material that they have from before the breaking, it's agreed upon that Lanfear only turned to the dark because she was trying to win back Lews Therin, who was the dragon previously to Rand. Therefore, it is possible that Lanfear will not hurt him because she is in love with his spirit, and the episode ends with her waiting for him in the dream world. So we're over halfway through our season, and I'm not really sure what their plans are with a lot of this stuff. We saw no Matt or Min at all in this episode, which feels like a really awkward choice for me personally. I don't really quite understand why they're just giving us snippets of Perrin. If this is something that they're going to drag out for seasons and seasons, I feel like it's not the greatest of decisions. I wish that they would just give people information from the get-go because it's information that we are desperately in need of, especially for Matt and Perrin. All in all, I feel like the first couple episodes specifically episodes 2 and 3 were decent. Episode 3 I thought was by far the best. Episode 4 wasn't great. Episode 5 still not great. I feel like they're not trending in the right direction for this show. I don't know how I feel about it at this point. I just feel like this isn't really a good way to tell a story, even if it wasn't an adaptation. But let me know in the comments down below what you thought of episode 5 of Wheel of Time. If you are curious for an in-depth discussion of the differences between the book and the show, on Friday, September 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be having a live conversation with my friend Christopher Navo from Christopher Navo of The Next Chapter, and we are going to be getting into all the nitty-gritty from the books and talking about how it differs from the show. So if you like content like this, please like and subscribe, leave me a comment down below, and as always, I'll see you next week for episode 6. See you next time.